Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on excluded property trusts in relevant property trusts. Excluded property in relevant property trusts. My name is Meg Saxida, and I'll be with you for the next half an hour talking about excluded property. We're going to look at, first of all, at what excluded property actually is. We're then going to move on to look at what an excluded property trust is, and finally, we're going to look at additions to excluded property trusts. So, first of all, when we talk about excluded property, the lovely thing about it is it's completely outside the scope of UK IHT. So, we're dealing with the tax of IHT when we're talking about excluded property. So basically what happens is if you're an individual and you have a transfer of value, in other words, you're gifting something, you're not going to have a potentially exempt transfer, nor if you are gifting something into a trust, will you have a chargeable lifetime transfer. If the property is inside the settlement, then it's not considered relevant property. So it's not going to be getting those exit charges, and it won't be getting the 10-yearly charges or the principal charges, anniversary charges, whatever you'd like to call them. So there are actually 5 types of excluded property, but usually when we think of it, we only think of this one. And this one is non-UK cited assets, so assets that are actually cited physically outside of the UK, held by non-UK domiciled individuals. Now remember, your domicile, where your heart is, get it from your father originally, but you can have a domicile of choice if you change your physical location and your intention to stay in that country. Remember, you could also be deemed domiciled in the UK if you've been living here for 15 out of 20 years. So, planning points. What do we need to do? We need to review all of our excluded property trusts where our settlers are now going to be UK domiciled, and just be very careful and establish whether there have been any additions, whether there have been any transfers, and whether they have any problems. Any trust transfers that took place after an excluded property trust was set up, but when they'd subsequently become UK domiciled or deemed domiciled, the ones that are going to be the problem. So those are the ones we really have to check. We have to check whether they had retained a benefit in that excluded property, and finally consider excluding that settler from benefit for the foreseeable future, because that's therefore going to make sure that we don't have a gap of reservation of benefit, and it will actually be a deemed pet when we do that because of the nature of the trust, but they will need to survive 7 years, which hopefully they can do. And also there is available life insurance if that pet does fail and they don't survive those 7 years.